welcome back. Today I'm coming to you with a sudden remembrance. So way back in April, I decided it would be fun to do the r/fantasy bingo. The r/fantasy bingo is a 25 square readathon, 25 square bingo board readathon, which runs from the 1st of April to the 1st of April every year. It is for fantasy, sci-fi, horror, anything speculative, biopunk, haunted house, steampunk, magical realism, anything you can think of that's speculative. r/fantasy covers speculative fiction. It's the subreddit for speculative fiction of all kinds, not just books, films, TV shows, games, board games, escape rooms, RPGs, like anything. If it's fiction and it comes under the speculative fiction umbrella, then it goes in r/fantasy. But the r/fantasy bingo is specifically for books, with a couple of exceptions, which I'll come to later. Now, I decided in April that I was going to do this and that I was going to focus on sci-fi and horror, because I read a lot of fantasy already and I love sci-fi. I would say sci-fi is my favourite genre, and I love horror, but I don't read as much of either as I would like to. So I set off in April with great intentions, and then I had something else going on and I very quickly forgot. So when I remembered a couple of weeks ago that this was my plan, I went through everything I've actually read since April, filled in the prompts I could. They're mostly fantasy, rather than sci-fi or horror. And then I've got 12 books, which I've already read towards my 25 square bingo. I've got 2 books which are in progress. I've got some more books on the way from the library, but I'm probably not going to be telling you what they are because I don't remember and I didn't bother to stop and look. So I'm just going to read through the prompts, tell you what I've read, and tell you where I really need help. Although there is a story graph specifically for it, and obviously there's a whole subreddit specifically for it. I'd like to hear your ideas too, because that's what I'm like. Okay, so I'm just going to get in. So the first prompt, I'm going to tell you the books I'm working on or that I've already failed first, and then the prompts that I haven't, because I haven't written down the numbers for anything. Hidden Gem, under 1,000 ratings on Goodreads, and I am currently reading Osmo Unknown and the Eightpenny Woods by Catherynne and Valente. This is a children's fantasy. I think it might be a bit eco-fiction-y. I'm not quite sure. It's about a valley and a forest that fall in love and the people who live there and their descendants. And that's about all I know because I haven't got very far into it. And I'll pop all the lists down below, I think, rather than, because I've not got a lot of time for editing, so I'm probably not going to do the words. I'm just going to pop the list down below. Okay, the next plot. High fashion, clothes or fibre arts are key to the plot. And I read Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft. And this is a romantasy about an Irish tailor and an English prince who kind of come together because she makes magic clothes and he needs magic clothes. And then there's romance, there's a love triangle subplot, there's lesbianism, there's all the good things. Actually, I don't really love romance, love triangles, so I don't know why I said that like that, but so it's a romantasy. There's good friendships in it, and there's kind of sweet explorations about what Regency royal weddings were like, or not Regency royal weddings because that doesn't make sense, but at that time. Down with the System. Plot revolves around disrupting a system, and we got The Poisons We Drink by Bethany, Baptiste. And this, again, it's a fantasy about someone who makes potions. Witches and wizards, or mostly witches, I think is the term they use, are treated as a second-class citizenry in this system. and our intrepid protagonist gets a look behind the scenes and starts to work out how to disrupt the systems to make life fairer for everyone. A book in parts, which is where they're separated into sections. Threads That Bind by Kika Hatzopoulou. This book is about descendants of the fates. It's another one where if you're magical, you're sort of treated as second class. It's another one where there's intriguing politics going on. There was a massacre, and maybe now there's an uprising, and someone is killing people, and no one knows why or when, and they have to go to the fates to work out why or when. So it's very based in Greek mythology. Gods and Pantheons, Kingdom of Souls by Raina Barron, and this is an Afro fantasy about the descendants of the gods and their magic and sort of exploration in a way of the inner self and of the world. Book club pick, and this had to be specifically an r/fantasy book club pick, and I read The House of Rust by Khadija Abdalla Bajaber. And this book is about a fisherman who gets lost at sea and his daughter who goes to find him in the aid of a talking cat and a skeletal sea monster, if I remember correctly. I read this. This is one of the first books I read. And it was beautiful, it was disturbing, and it was all about the way that young girls relate to older men, and the way that you can kind of fight back against like that overprotectiveness, if that makes sense. It was all about family and love and sexism, unfortunately, and finding your own way in the world. Okay, the next book is Parent Protagonist, and for this I read Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, and this is about someone who's getting out from a cult with her children, and she's running through the woods, and she's got biopunk stuff going on. This is a popular choice for biopunk, I think, and it's creepy, and you don't know who to trust, and it's all about coming into the world when you've been in a very insular situation. Epistolary and Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherland by Heather Fawcett. I didn't much like this. My problem with the first book was that her real world knowledge didn't seem very good, and she didn't seem overly familiar with Fairyland either, to be honest. It just felt a bit lost and a bit woolly. Published in 2025, The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar, and I'll pop the link for when I talked about this book before. This is a retelling of The Two Sisters, which is a book about, and it's about which is a folk song, and it's a book about two sisters, one of whom is being courted by a human and also a fae, and the other of whom thinks she should just settle down with pragmatically, but obviously she chooses the fairy. And there's a lot of it's quite rapey, it's quite the human is not a good guy, and so it's about her escaping, and she turns into a harp and comes back and accuses her person, and that all happens in the folk song, and it was a really lovely haunting retelling of the folk song, which is a murder ballad, so it's a murder ballad in book form. The next was actually Author of Colour, but you'll notice, actually I've not got that many. I'm not shy about reading authors of colour, so I'm going for specifically, each version has a hard mode, which I haven't mostly been doing, but it's horror by Author of Colour, and I chose The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. And this was a horror of the first integrated high school prom, and it's about being interracial and being bullied and being never quite knowing where you fit, and then getting into this situation where you can do magic but you can't really control it because you've not been taught, you've not been developed to your full potential, and then there's an explosion, not a literal explosion, but like all these tensions come together to explode into one messy mess. Biopunk, this is another one I'm currently reading, and this is the only male author currently on the list, and that is Extremophile by Ian Green. And as I say, I'm not quite sure where this is going, and this is two scientists who do modifications for money, and they're slightly dodgy modifications, body modifications, and they're not meant to do it, but that's what they're doing, and it's so I'll see where that goes. Stranger in a Strange Land. This is about someone foreign or from outside coming into a new culture and starting to live there. And I read The Grimoire Grammar School Parents Teacher Association by Caitlin Rozakis. And this is about someone whose daughter got bitten by a werewolf, so she has to go to a magic school, and she doesn't know how to be a werewolf, and she doesn't know any of the magical protocols, and she ends up on the PTA because she wants to make friends. And it's all about settling into a foreign country when you're kind of forced there because of the way your life happened. Cozy SFF, and I read Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Zhu, and this is a graphic novel, romance novel between a witch and a werewolf, and it is so cute, so lovely. A generic title, it has to have certain words in the title, and they can be singular or plural. It has to have one of blood, bone, broken court, dark, shadow, song, sword, throne in title. And I read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and this is a epic vampire novel about, again, being turned without your wishes and having to find your way in a new world, and then literally a new world. She's like wandering for a while and she finds herself in America, and how it goes. So those are the ones I've done, or at least started so far. And these are the ones which I have not done anything towards, or at least I've not started any books. Knights and Paladins, I'd quite like to find a sci-fi or horror with a knight or a paladin in if I can, but if not, I've got a Toby Day that I can fit in there. Toby Day is a knight of fairy who does urban fantasy mystery books, basically. Published in the 80s, for which I have an Octavia Butler coming to the library. I forget which one, but I've got it there somewhere. Impossible Places. So this is anywhere that would sort of break the brain of a physicist, like the maths doesn't quite work, or it's bigger on the inside is one of the things. So I guess I could choose a Doctor Who book. I've never actually read a Doctor Who book, so that might be a good choice. Last in series, which actually I do intend to read the third book, To You at the Altar, I think it's called. The third Tomes and Tea book by Rebecca Thorne, which I believe is intended to be the last one. I've just learnt there's a fourth book. It's not what I'll be reading for it. Small press or self-published, again that's fairly self-explanatory, and I'll probably go with something that someone else has used. Elves or dwarves, and again I'm looking for an elf or dwarf in a sci-fi or horror, which should be doable, but I haven't found it yet. LGBTQIA plus protagonist, I'm just going to choose and read basically anything. 5 short stories. So if you have a sci-fi or horror or sci-fi horror collection that you recommend, I'd love to hear it. Recycle a bingo square. Again, this is going to be, it's from like, there's years and years of past ones. I'm fairly certain I could fit any book that I really want to, that I love and that I want to immortalise in this. I can find a square to fit it, probably. pirates, which I forgot to write down, but I did actually read A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne, and I didn't count it because I thought To You at the Altar was the last in the series. So I'm going to put in A Pirate's Life for Tea by Rebecca Thorne, which is about two people who are in love and they're going on a quest because they like to do things together, and then there's piracy, and then they're going to find the piracy. There is more to the quest than that, but it's a little bit of a spoiler for the previous book, so I have actually read that since April, and that is going in that one. And Not a Book, which I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I did watch all of the Hugo nominated films for 2025. Some of those I watched since April, they could count. My daughter's been trying to get me into Minecraft, so that could count. I've been playing a lot of we played a lot of the Ticket to Ride legacy game. That might be able to count. I'm less sure about that one because that feels more history than speculative. Although, yeah, it feels more history than speculative. So my husband and I have got really bad at Pandemic for some reason. So we're spending a lot of time playing Pandemic, but again, that's not really speculative. So I'm not sure whether I'll find a game or not, and I wanted to do something slightly different. Like, I play a lot of games, and we watch a film like at least once a week. So I wasn't sure just picking a film was a good thing. So I'll see if I can find something a bit out of the way or unusual to do for that one, and let you know. But in the meantime, those are the 13 books I've read, 2 books I've started, and categories for which I still need a book. And if you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them. As I say, particularly sci-fi and horror. And I will see you soon. Bye.